Tuesday. I know what I'm going to do today. Yesterday, I did something I've never done before. I downloaded TikTok on my phone. I wanted to see what Booktok was all about. I see all these YouTube videos. Why Booktok is ruining reading. Why Booktok is horrible. Booktok's only porn. All stuff like that. But then I downloaded TikTok. And I was looking through Booktok. And a lot of it is bad. A lot of it is just smut. A lot of it is just stupid, disgusting stuff. But when you look up fantasy book talk, it's very similar to BookTube. So I was, following some accounts and I was getting some inspiration because the original motivation to download TikTok was to find some ideas for shorts so I could upload them to YouTube. And I'm really liking Book Talk so far. So I picked up my first Book Talk recommended book. It is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. It tells the story of a friendship between two girls that spans over 6 decades. The first book starts off, it's the first book in 4, it's called the Napolitan series. The first book starts off when they're old women, they're in their 60s or 70s, and one of them has gone missing. Then it bounces back to when they're 6 or 7 and they meet. And right away, I'm compelled because I was raised in Las Vegas. I lived the first 27 years of my life in Las Vegas. I have several lifelong friends. And friendship isn't just a constant upward trajectory. Like there's ups and downs, valleys and mountains. And I look forward to seeing that depicted across this story. The writing's a little not too interesting so far because it's like an Italian translated work, but I've heard that this series is considered a modern classic. There are 4 books. I also decided to pick up my first graphic novel for the year, the first volume of The Boys. The Boys, you probably heard about it from like the Amazon show that has like hit the world by storm, very popular. If you thought The Watchmen was about gritty heroes, The Boys is several notches above that. These are debaucherous, evil, corrupt individuals, superheroes that use their powers for selfish, disgusting means. And I've heard the comic is very different than the TV show. I've only seen the first season and a half of The Boys, but I'm excited to tackle the comics. Perhaps I will find a manga to read this week as well. So I'll have a manga, a comic, and a TikTok recommended book. And maybe I'll upload some things to TikTok. Maybe I'll become a book talker. Is that maybe that's the phrase? I'm not exactly sure, but we'll see if it helps out with the book tubing, and we'll see if we can connect them. Maybe I don't know. Let's see how it goes. Thursday. I'm officially a book talker. I posted my first book talk video introducing myself to the community, and so far, positive results. I'm not gonna lie, there is something quite freeing and something really feel good about book talk because I have the BookTube channel, but a lot of people subscribe to this channel because they're a fan of my fighting. Most of those people are dead subscribers. So like my numbers are very much inflated and actually very much hurts the analytics for the channel. So it's nice to kind of start new somewhere, to kind of build a bookish community from scratch. And hopefully I could divert some of my book talk people to the BookTube because BookTube is where my heart is. But book talk, it's new and shiny. Very different atmosphere, very different culture. And I look forward to discovering more about it. The Boys comics, I'm almost done with volume 1. Very unhinged, very funny. A lot of characters are either different sexes or just different characters entirely. And that's quite compelling. I like the TV show, but not enough to continue on and to finish it, or at least get up to date with the most current installments. But the comics are complete, only 12 volumes. I want to finish the first 2 volumes this week. My Brilliant Friend. This book is amazing. It's now that I have more details about it, I can describe it better. It's about 2 young girls. One's very smart, but her friend is incredibly gifted. Her friend comes from a very troubled background. She's emaciated. She's probably abused, but she is brilliant. And our main character, our protagonist, our narrator, is envious of her best friend. She wants to be brilliant like her best friend, who just excels at all these things. And it's very, very it's a very painful read, but in a good way to me. Because growing up, I was surrounded by a bunch of very brilliant children. I was kind of middle of the pack in public school, then I went to private school, and I was very much towards the back of the pack. Everyone was smarter than me. Everyone was reading at a higher level than me. Everyone could speak more clearly than me because I have some speech issues still. I really felt like I was the dumb person in the room for a very big part of my life. And all those people, they just seem to be able to tackle things that are very difficult that I just couldn't even understand. And I realized as I've become an adult, I just needed more time because now that I'm constantly educating myself, now that I'm constantly reading, not to brag, but I think I'm just as smart or sometimes smarter than a lot of people that I thought were geniuses when I was young. So, in that respect, I very much have a very easy time relating to the narrator and protagonist of My Brilliant Friend because I too have been in someone else's shadow for a lot of my life. And I feel like it wasn't until a few years ago, probably my early to mid 20s, that I finally felt like I was outside of someone else's shadow. So, a very emotional read for me. And it's very interesting to kind of notice that about yourself. Because I never saw myself in that way, but reading this book, I'm like, why am I reacting so strongly to this? Because I felt the same way this protagonist felt. So yeah, very good day. Now that I've been a book talker for about 2 days, I feel like I have an expert opinion. I have an expert little point of view to share with you guys. Booktok is a bit shallower than Booktube, but I do think it suffers from the same issues: consumerism, everyone chasing the algorithm, everyone reading a lot of the same books. Booktok girlies, I think, are very problematic because the romantasy smut part of Booktok has a much higher share of the viewership than it does on Booktube. So I do think that is problematic. I think that's where a lot of the stigma against Booktok comes from. Why do I think Booktok is attractive? There's memes. I love book memes, but it's kind of hard to share memes on YouTube because of the algorithm. They don't get as many views. There's not as much, watch time. But Booktok gives you the option of using videos and pictures. So I do think Booktok in general is a lot less intimidating because there's more options for content. But I really do feel like the long form content on BookTube is a lot more sustainable, and I think that's why a lot of book talkers are building a shallow mass audience on Booktok and then moving over to BookTube. I do wonder how these different platforms are going to compete and collaborate in the future. I do really feel like most booktubers are going to have a book talk in the future. And I do think there's a learning curve, but I think, my millennial Gen Z-ness, I'm not quite sure which generation I am, won't find it too difficult to navigate Booktok. Give me a few weeks. Saturday, just over 100 pages left of My Brilliant Friend. I'm loving this book. It is hitting me in the feels. Many of the thoughts and insecurities that I had growing up, our protagonist and point of view character had growing up. When I was in private school, I mentioned how, I was on the bottom half of the class, and I felt like everyone around me was more intelligent than me. And I had a chip on my shoulder. I was less confident. I had anxiety. I was shy. I was really extroverted before I went to private school. And then I went to private school and I felt like I was an outsider. And I went into my shell and I had very few friends and I had a really hard time. So, I made all the other students in my class like rivals. They had all the advantages. They came from rich, wealthy families. They had support systems. Their families went to college. They had all these advantages. They knew Latin, and I was just some kid from public school, and I was behind them. So I started this one-sided rivalry with so many of my classmates. And for 2 years, I struggled really bad. But my last 2 years at the private school, I was in the upper half of my class. So even a one-sided rivalry could bring you to new heights. The protagonist and main character of My Brilliant Friend, her best friend, is the smart one. She's the pretty one. She's the successful one. But her smart, talented, gifted friend comes from a poorer family. So she doesn't have the opportunities as our protagonist. So our protagonist is successful in school and in life. And she knows that only because her best friend and main rival, just because of her realities, can't have the opportunities in the life that she has. But she knows her friend's way more talented. But this rivalry with her friend is making her the best version of herself. And I was lucky that I had the same rival for all of middle school and all of high school and part of college until I realized I was an adult and I didn't need to have these stupid rivalries. My cousin was just under a year older than me, went to private school with me, went to high school with me, went to college in the same field and subject as me, drove me to new heights. I became the best version of myself because I was chasing after this individual. I was trying to reach the same heights as this individual. So yeah, rivalry is a good thing. Even if you feel insecure surrounded by great, smart, intellectual, gifted people, they'll still bring you up. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But if you're the dumbest person in the room, that can make you feel really bad. But you can't help but get better. And I truly believe that. My Brilliant Friend is about a friendship where one person is incredibly gifted and it forces the other friend to get better. And I love that. Sunday. The final page count for this week is 407 pages. I finished My Brilliant Friend, and I've read 30 pages of The Stand. One of my best friends called me 2 days ago and said that he finished his first Stephen King, and that he planned on starting this book next week. And I just got so excited because this is a friend that didn't read, really. None of my friends that I see in the day-to-day are readers. They're all video gamers. But the video game to reading pipeline is so real, so that's kind of exciting. So I'll be nibbling on this book over the next few weeks. It'll definitely be the longest book I'll read this year. So don't expect me to be talking about this book very much over the next 2 weeks, because I want to talk about it over one vlog. But yeah, nibbling on The Stand. My Brilliant Friend. I'm not sure if I like the friendship that is at the center of this book. I think an obsession and admiration for your friend is very normal, especially in your teen years. But I really feel like a lot of the affection and love is one-sided. I feel like one of the friends is constantly using the other one, living vicariously through one. I'm not sure if it's healthy, but a lot of teenage friendships aren't very healthy. And the friendships in that form aren't sustainable. So I'm imagining, because this story takes place over like 50, 60 years, this friendship's going to go through healthy sections and very unhealthy sections, because that's just how friendship works. That being said, I did love it. I heard that the author wanted to publish all 4 installments as one giant novel, and you could really tell with the way this book ends. It ends really in the middle of a conflict, well, at the start of a conflict. Kind of a cliffhanger. Would have really pissed me off if I was reading these books as they were coming out in publishing order. My Brilliant Friend, 4 out of 5 stars. The Stand, I have only read a little bit of it. Starting off really good. The Boys, I finished volume 1 today. Very similar to the first episode of the first season of The Boys TV show, but very different in the same way. Same characters, different contexts. And a lot of the plot points that are in the TV show are accelerated. I look forward to seeing how different the comic is from the TV show. But yeah, 407 pages, 4 videos uploaded to my TikTok. I'll leave the link to my TikTok in the description below. I've uploaded 1 YouTube short this week that I'll also be uploading to TikTok because I'm double dipping now. Yes, this is the week where I read my first TikTok recommended book and became a book talker, and I'm excited to see what next week has in store for me, to see what the stories have in store for me. We're also trying out some new things on the vlog next week, so stay tuned for that. This week was good. Next week will be even better, and I'll talk to you guys next time.